Hey, what's your problem? You have business problems? We have business solutions. Well, maybe.
Occasional.
Life is a fight.
It is.
In business, every day is a fight.
So true.
So, hey, what's your problem?
Yes, thank you as always, John David Wells with the Wells Report. Check him out on Facebook. He's the big voice guy for the program. This is the What's Your Problem podcast, a podcast where we talk to Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals about the one thing. There's always something. Once you realize it's always something, life kind of gets a little bit better, hopefully. This is a video and audio podcast. Check us out at whatsyourproblempodcast.com and let us know what you think. If you want to subscribe along, if you want to share it out, because this is the year of 10,000 average downloads per episode. That's what I'm shooting for. Help us get there. Go to whatsyourproblempodcast.com. Tell your friends about it. Share it out. We would be eternally grateful. I am your host, Jim McCarthy with jimmccarthyvoiceovers.com. And today, a blast from the past. A gentleman I met when I was in the radio business here in Nashville. I want to say 06, 07. So long ago. Right? Mr. Jim Bartoo with the Nashville Zoo. See what I did there? I didn't even mean to do that.
I know. It's like a Dr. Seuss book.
It's kind of, I guess, fruitful that your name kind of rhymes with zoo.
That's why I stuck around this long.
Is that why you got into the business?
That's right.
All right. So
makes it easy for kids.
One of the things that we do to kind of get things kicked off is the Dad Joke Challenge, and it is brought to you by Mr. Edward Fox and Trade Bank of Nashville. Check him out. All the details will be inside the description. But Trade Bank is a great when barter can be smarter. When you're not really big on taking out loans these days and not sure what the banking system's going to do, barter might be a good alternative to look into to trade basically unsold stock. It's good for restaurants, bakeries, things of that nature. Bartering is one of the newest things that is coming around and getting wildly popular, believe it or not. Ed Fox with Trade Bank. Jim, are you ready for the Dad Joke Challenge? You know how it works?
No, I don't.
If you laugh, you lose a point.
Okay.
If I laugh, you gain a point.
Oh, do I have to tell jokes?
No, Ed Fox tells the jokes. He records them and sends. I have no idea what they are. And if we both burst out laughing, then we both lose a point. The great thing is that we don't keep score.
Oh, great.
So,
okay.
Yeah, here we go. So here, hopefully this works.
What type of exercise do lazy people do? Diddly squats, of course.
Not bad.
It's all right.
Not bad. Diddly squats, I can get that. You know the originator of the dad joke is Stephen Wright, right?
Yes.
Remember him?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It was crazy.
His best friend works for an AM radio station, and when they drive around and pass under a bridge, you can't hear him.
I remember that one. He also has a circular driveway. He can't get out. Oh, my gosh. We're providing our own dad jokes here. All right, here's joke number 2 from Mr. Ed Fox.
So, Helvetica and Times New Roman walk into a bar. The bartender says, "Sorry, we don't serve your type in here."
That's kind of funny. That got a little chuckle out of me. All right, number 3.
How does Moses make his tea? He brews it.
It is a take on Hebrews.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
He brews it.
He brews it. You have to, when it needs to be explained, I guess, you know. Here we go. Number 4, I believe.
A man tried to sell me a coffin the other day. I told him that's the last thing I need.
That's good.
That was pretty good.
That's good, yeah.
All right, and the final one. Here we go.
You know what? No matter how much you push the envelope, it'll still be stationary.
That was grown-tastic.
That was classic dad.
Was it a or a?
I give it a thumbs up.
Yeah,
that was good.
That wasn't bad. It was cute.
Yeah, you got to know your
joke.
You got to know your paper products to get that joke.
You kind of do. All right, so getting into it, you've been at the helm of the marketing department for the Nashville Zoo 23 years. That is since 2000.
99. October 99. Yep.
That's when you arrived at the zoo?
That's when I arrived.
And that's when things, I bet, got interesting.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Things just kind of took off from there.
Did they? Tell me about your first, how did you get into everything? What school did you go to, and what piqued your interest in doing this?
I went to, I started life in New York. How far back do you want to go?
Well, I guess, your formative years. What did you want to do when you were a teenager, going into high school and college and all that fun stuff? Are you doing what you've always dreamed of?
I think like most teenagers, I wasn't really quite sure what I wanted to do. You just kind of float around and you follow things that you're interested in.
What were you interested in?
Math and science.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And you ended up in marketing.
I did. The opposite of math and science. Yeah.
Where in New York, by the way?
I was in a little town right outside of Buffalo called Springville.
Okay.
Born in Niagara Falls and then lived in Cleveland, Ohio from about 3 to about 12. But my formative years were in Chattanooga. I moved to Chattanooga.
Okay. Yeah. So you became a Southerner.
Yep.
Yeah.
When I was about 12.
You got out just in time.
I did, yes. Yeah. Moved away from Cleveland around the time that the Cuyahoga River was burning as it went through the city.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So formative years in Chattanooga, went to UT, studied in advertising, communications in advertising at UT with a plan to go work for an ad agency because I just thought that was, the way to go, right?
Right.
Didn't really find anything, got out of school, worked at a Kinko's, because I knew how to work a Mac at the time, so I was teaching people how to set up their own letterhead. And then I was hired by a local TV station, actually starting in their promotions department, but then moved into their news department because they needed an extra hand in there, and they were dissolving the promotions department or refinancing it. I'm not sure what was happening over there. So I made myself as useful as I could in the news department and started producing television news pretty quickly, actually. And this is from someone who failed journalism in college. The intro course that you take in communications, you have to take a journalism class, and I failed it miserably because I'm a terrible speller. So I worked in news, basically deciding who was going to be watching the news every night fairly quickly. And I did that for 3 years. I went over to another station. I met my wife over there, and she was a health reporter over at this other station in Chattanooga. And she eventually got a job up in Columbus, Ohio. And so I went with her up to Columbus, no plan or anything. Looking for work in ad agency, never really found it. So I picked up this part-time job at the Columbus Zoo, which was right down the street from where we were living. And I was started from the ground up. I worked in guest services, and I rang in school groups and people that came out to a zoo in Columbus in the dead of winter for whatever reason to come see whatever was still moving around in 10 below weather up there in Columbus in the blowing snow. Spent the whole next summer with that same department. Drove the train around, did tours, drove a tram around. It was the best summer of my life. Got paid next to nothing to do it. And then I realized that the zoo had a marketing department, which I had absolutely no idea that zoos have marketing departments. So I walked in and introduced myself and told them, my degree was in advertising, and that I have 3 years of experience in TV news. And they said, do you know how to work one of these? And they pointed at this 3/4-inch deck editing machine, which, that was that's what I learned to edit on, tape-to-tape editing, when I was in TV news. So I said, yeah, I know how to edit those with one of those really well. And they said, we would love to hire you to be our video coordinator. I think was my very first job. Again, working, making next to nothing. Made myself as useful as possible, worked my way through that department, eventually started running the events there, got me into sponsorship and learning a little bit of that. Learned as much as I could in that marketing department. Carol and I got married, had a kid, and when you have a kid, everything changes. We were traveling back to Chattanooga to see family or to St. Louis, which is where her family was from at the time. And so we made it a conscious effort to try to move to a town that was going to be closer to family, but still had the elements that we needed to be able to do our jobs. She was still a health reporter at the time, so moving into a town that had a big enough health business that she could do her job as a health reporter. There'd be enough stories around there. So she talked the local NBC affiliate here in Nashville to create a job, a health reporter job, and that's what they did. And she got hired. And around the same time, the zoo happened to be looking for a marketing director, and I had worked with Jack Hanna. I don't know if you know who Jack Hanna is, but yeah, he's a big animal guy, back in the day with Letterman and so on and so forth. So I worked with him quite a bit in video because I shot and edited video up there as well.
Right.
And he called down to the zoo president, and he said, "You got to check this guy Jim out. He's great. You got to talk to him." So
one hell of a champion on your hand.
Yeah, absolutely. So so the next thing I knew, I was offered the job, and I've been there ever since. Same title, everything for the past 23 years.
Definitely not as video coordinator though.
No.
Like coordinator is always the title of, it's a title, but it really means nothing.
Right. It's coordinator, I think, means just go gather up all the stuff that we need to do our jobs and then keep your mouth shut.
Yeah. Gopher. Just call me a gopher, all right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, but for a number of years, it was just me in the department. So, I would edit video. I'd take pictures. I, beg for coverage. All of it was earned media at the time because I had no budget. So there was no advertising buying at the time. I really didn't get into that till a few years later. And
when did the hockey stick happen? When you started getting budgets for that? Was that around the time that I met you? I mean,
yeah, pretty close. It was probably 2002, 2003, something like that. They started throwing me a little bit of money here and there to buy some things, particularly when we were opening up new exhibits. We had partnerships with media outlets like radio stations that helped us really spread the word during a time that we didn't have really a whole lot of money going around. So,
and it's always in the best interest for a radio station to get behind that because it's such a local staple.
It is.
Who's got a problem with the zoo?
Well, and a lot of times, a lot of these media organizations are looking for ways to be able to infuse themselves into public, right? You can sit behind a microphone all day long, but if nobody knows who you are in the face and haven't met you, then, or maybe I should say, if they meet you in person, they're much more likely to tune into the station and hear you and say, I met that guy. He was out at the zoo, doing whatever it was. So.
Well, and again, a lot of TV would teach you how to create urgency in your communications, right?
Well, yeah, a lot of earned media came from the experience that I had in TV. So I knew how to put together, first of all, I knew how to identify a good story, right? And to be able to build around it and then create all the elements that you need to be able to make that story happen and drop it into a reporter's lap and say, this is what I have. It makes their job really easy, and it makes it really hard for them to say, nah, I'm not interested in that.
Right. I mean, did you ever do, you're familiar with the scary news tease strategy?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, something on your stove tonight could kill you and your entire family. Find out what that is tonight at 7.
Right.
Meanwhile, it's 3 o'clock and you're going, wait, what? The hell could it be?
I got to leave early.
Oh, my.
I got to get home and set the
and
Devo.
you find out, like, your kid could, knock the sauce of oil over and cause a fire.
Right. You're like, oh, yeah, I knew that.
So, like, were you reaching out to news channels and radio stations going, we just got a brand new, like, grizzly bear, and he's in a very shaky enclosure. So, you never know. Something at the Nashville Zoo could escape and slaughter your entire family.
We had a cheetah.
Come find out what it is. We
had a cheetah escape one year, and I got to tell you that the attendance the day after was just dynamite, and it was really good. And the guy from the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, and part of their job is to make sure that all of our exhibits remain safe and that they keep animals in place. He was out surveying, and he came into my office and he goes, "So honestly, you did this, didn't you? I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And he goes, well, how was attendance? And I said, it was really good.
Is that where you revert to your last name being Bartolini or something like that? Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
That's right.
Please kind of loosen some Allen wrenches. And,
I know some people, but I was in Atlantic City, I swear.
I don't know what you're talking about. Cheetah escaped. We got a lot of attention. I mean, who's complaining? So
he's back. Right? He got back safely. Everybody wins.
Hey, we got to see him run. I mean, you know,
That's
after
right.
a few people at that, but you know, whatever. What other stories do you have in your time there that have been like just rewarding or like, oh my gosh? I mean, what was the first time that you were like, this is a great job? You know?
Well, you know, it's been a great job since day one, because you're just dealing with a product that people love to talk about, right? And see and be a part of, and it's all really fun and clean stuff. You know, for the most part, what we do is pretty family friendly. There's not a whole lot out there that's confrontational, right?
There's nothing controversial about it.
No, yeah, we're not pushing anybody's buttons. We're just having a good time. So it really kind of lends itself to present story ideas to the media when they need something besides just something bleeding or dying or
it's always a feel-good
disaster.
story.
Yeah, but for the most part,
yeah. With the getting into, you know, I remember you did a bunch of like events, some big events. When did all that start off? It's probably like the Easter egg hunt,
right? Yeah.
You know, that kind of got you a lot of attention as well. We used to do radio spots where we had character voices for the animals. I mean,
that's right.
When you would come in, dude, it was an orchestration.
Oh yeah,
you know?
Yeah. We wanted to. My favorite was the Easter Bunny with the Brooklyn accent. That was.
Was that me?
That was trying to convince people to come to the zoo, right? And it's not, because you think of an Easter Bunny and you think it's just going to be the really dark, hello, it's Easter, you know. But this guy was like, "Ow, let me tell you something. You're going to come out to the zoo, you better get prepared.
Yeah,
there's a lot of eggs."
The eggs might have fallen off the back of a truck, but you know, there's a lot of eggs out there.
We don't talk about where we get the eggs, all right?
You come to see me on the morning of my daughter's wedding to talk about eggs. But I mean, we used to do a lot of stuff in the radio station with you guys where, you know, if Jim Bartoo was coming in, you knew to block off a couple of hours because it was going to be like, you know, we need the sound of a calliope. I'm like, what is, I remember you asked him like, what is a calliope? You know, like a carousel. Yeah. Oh, okay. And we actually had to source it and found it and had about 5 or 6 different voices and people around the building.
Yeah.
You know.
I still get stuff like that. It's just that now I have to send it through, you know,
agencies,
teams of people.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It's got to go up, and usually in the process it gets a little bit homogenized. So it's, you know,
there's just no magic when I'm not involved.
Footloose. Well, we had that. I don't know if you remember. We had that billboard years ago that said it was opening up the Gibbon Island exhibit, and the headline read "Nose picking, poop throwing, you know, good clean fun."
Right.
And it was it. I tell you what, we got more people either very angry or very happy about that billboard. And
so
I never get calls. I never get calls about billboards. And these people were writing in left and right. Gotta love that.
But at least you got the shade and you got the light, right?
Yeah, right. It cut through the clutter.
Was that kind of like an inspiration from the Jack FM billboards that do the play on words with the bands in a way? Or
some of I think this was prior Jack FM. I think this was before Jack came along. Yeah.
Jack came along in 2005.
Yeah, that's when I came on. I think the Gibbon exhibit opened up in 2002 or 2003.
Okay. Yeah. There was a big exhibit that opened up, I want to say 2007, between 2007 and 2009. Was that the lemurs or the
elephants opened up, and I think in 2009.
Okay. That was a biggie. No pun intended.
Yep. That was a big exhibit.
Mm-hmm. Because there's a big open field. I mean, you got to have a lot of land.
Yeah. Yeah.
For elephants.
It was a lot. Well, and the property generally slopes into a little creek that's part of the Mill Creek waterway, and there's an endangered crayfish in that creek. So we have to be really careful about water runoff, particularly if you're talking about 3 acres of elephant excrement that, you know, every time it rains, it's going to make its way down to that creek. So we had to put in all kinds of Cambian dams and things that would stop it from, running down there, but so we could clean it a little bit before it gets into the.
Yeah, but I mean, the crayfish will probably benefit off that. They'll become like full-fledged lobsters.
You would think. You never really know, but the wildlife folks are like, no, we don't want our crayfish eating elephant poop. That's not
what they eat.
Yeah,
even though they're bottom feeders.
That's okay in Florida, but not here, buddy. Yeah.
All the land, how long was the Nashville Zoo been in existence?
We started, and actually in 1990, but not at the Grassmere property. We were at a different property up in Cheatham County.
Right.
It was 100 acres, beautiful piece of property, but it took like 45 minutes to get there from downtown Nashville.
Yeah.
So we had the opportunity to move. Bredesen at the time, Mayor Bredesen at the time, offered a deal for the zoo to relocate to the Grassmere property. And we did that in 96, opened up to the public in 97, and we've been building a zoo from basically the ground up. There was a wildlife park there before that, so there were a handful of animal habitats that we could put animals in, but it was nothing really, a whole lot really to write about. For the first couple of years, honestly, the best exhibit we had was the backhoe. And we had 8-year-old boys from miles around that would come and just watch that thing all day long.
Really?
Oh yeah, kids love major earth moving equipment.
That is true. I remember that as a kid myself.
If you could do an amusement park where kids can just kind of work a crane and a backhoe and a bulldozer.
They have them for adults.
Yeah, don't they? So why not kids? I mean, can you kid-proof those things?
I would imagine so. I mean, as long as there's nothing around and they can do whatever they want. I mean, aside from toppling it over or something.
Right, remove all the dangerous movements on it.
I think there's actually a place in Vegas where you can, as an adult, play with earth-moving equipment.
Yeah.
Backhoes, all sorts of stuff.
And they probably charge you, $80 a minute or something like that for it. Just a ridiculous amount of money.
And got people with expendable, too much money that they go out there and blow it all, to fulfill lifetime fantasies. It's a different form of rock and roll, of rock star camp. You know what I mean? The rock and roll camp.
Exactly.
Or whatever they call that. Camp rock and roll. I can't even think today. Oh my gosh. Whatever the name of that thing is.
School of Rock, isn't it?
It's not School of Rock. It's Rockstar Camp. It's all I can think of. I think it's called that. Where you can literally play with legends.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess it's if you want to be a Rockstar construction equipment operator.
What would you call a show like that?
The for construction?
Yeah.
I think it's called The Big Dig or something like that out in Vegas. Yeah. Where you could just rent out the equipment for an hour. And
I can't see myself spending a vacation doing it.
I agree. I had the opportunity in a previous organization that we got like a mini excavator kind of thing. And the person who was kind of in charge of it was very excited about it. He's like, "Oh, go sit in it." I'm like, "I'm good. I don't need to sit." No, go up. Okay, let me just placate you. And sit in okay, I'm sitting. What now? Oh, move the lever to the right. Okay, so the thing turns. Okay, are we done? No? Okay. We're going to dig? Okay.
We're digging. All right, we're digging.
We're digging. Okay. I'm good. I don't need to do this.
I had the same opportunity. Yeah, we broke ground on that new HCA Healthcare Veterinary Center that we built. When we were breaking ground for that, they let me get in there and dig a big scoop out of the ground. And it was, it's impressive.
Yeah.
Because I know that how long it takes me to normally dig a hole that big with my hands.
It is impressive, but at the same time, you're thinking it moves that machine around quite a bit. It's very unsettling.
It is, yeah. It moves, and it moves suddenly, right? Yeah. Which is why I'm thinking kids probably don't need to be in this thing, but, it is what it is.
It jerks around, and unless you're not prepared for it. I would have to say, like, if I had to get a really cushy job, crane operator.
Oh, yeah?
Those guys, there's a guy on TikTok that all he does is film himself doing his day job.
Wow.
He gets, it's like, I'm up here, I'm up in my crane operating thingy. He takes his shoes off, kind of
air conditioning,
sits back in his air conditioning. Okay, I just got to lower the thing and, make sure that I don't freaking collapse everything.
Right.
Raise the bar and bring it over. And
that's nice.
All he does all day.
Wow.
It makes, $250,000 a year, I guess.
That would
Maybe
be
I'm
an
off on that
interesting
number.
job.
Yeah.
$250,000 would be all right. I'd do that.
Those guys, because of their specialty, I guess they get paid for it.
When we we have an event at the zoo called Zoolumination, and it's Chinese lanterns. And they're huge.
Yeah.
The one that we had this year, there was one in the field that was a good 30 feet high. And they were putting the head on this thing with a crane. And the guy was operating it from the ground remotely. He had like a little joystick thing, like he's flying a drone, but he's working a crane.
Yeah.
And so he's moving this thing from the ground. It just kind of sets up and you operate it that way now. So there's nobody, you don't even have to sit in it. You just kind of walk around it and watch what's happening with it.
I just think that, my gosh, I would have to ask and see if they have bathrooms in those things. Because, I mean, once you're up there,
right?
You're done. You can't.
What do you do?
Yeah, you got to climb all the way back down. How long does that take?
Maybe it's a 2-liter bottle, I'm thinking.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But what if all of a sudden you had, Taco Bell the night before? And, yeah.
That's not a big opening for that 2-liter bottle. Gonna need
you have to really you have to improvise or open the door and say, "Look out below." Getting into the other thing you mentioned, the light show thing that you're doing. What's it?
Zoolumination. Yep, we do that.
And you're doing something now for just adults only, I guess, coming up, right?
We do several events throughout the year for adults only. The first one was we've had a fundraiser, an annual fundraiser every year. It's called Sunset Safari. It's a great evening. You come out and you try food from lots of different restaurants, and it's open bars, and it all goes to support the zoo's operations, which is fantastic. We started another one several years ago, a good decade ago, called Brew at the Zoo, and it's a beer tasting after-hours event. And again, lots of different beers from around the region, around the country, really. It's kind of set up by distributors, so they bring in all different types of craft brew. And then we ran an event called Red, White, and Zoo, which was just like Brew at the Zoo, except it was wine instead of beer. We did that for a number of years, but we're canceling that this year, or not bringing it back. And instead, we're going to bring back something at the end of April called Sips for Species. Mm-hmm. And again, it's sampling of beverages. There'll be food trucks that are there. We'll have keepers that are there along with some of the animals. And the whole idea is to try to get people to understand more about all the conservation work that the zoo does. And again, it's an after-hours event. You pay a single price. You get to sample beverages all night long, and then you can buy food if you want from the food trucks.
And walk the grounds and see the animals? Walk
the grounds at night. Lots of exhibits that are open for at least some of the time, right? A lot of these animals we got to put up at night. They can't see once it gets dark outside, and it's hard to get them back into their buildings. And we have to get them into their buildings because it's 188 acres out there. We're developed on maybe half of it. A lot of wooded property out there. We have coyote, deer, raccoons, possum, lots of things that will wander into exhibits and take animals if they can.
And that's the thing, is that I would imagine some of the native species to Nashville must have a field day with some of the, or maybe the animals at the zoo have a field day with the native species. I mean,
It kind of depends.
Right. I mean, I don't think a coyote is going to take down an elephant, for crying out loud.
Well, anything that could be prey for animals is obvious, or for native species is obviously endangered, so we put them up at night. And then anything that could be a predator is dangerous, not necessarily for the native animals, but for the rest of the populations of people that live around. So we don't, if we leave a tiger out at night and we have a huge storm that comes through that night and knocks a tree over a fence, it could be a while before we get back over there to address that issue, and the tiger could be anywhere. So that's one of the reasons why we keep those animals enclosed at night and in more secure areas.
How do the surrounding neighbors respond to the zoo? I would imagine that they're friendly, or
some of them, and it kind of comes and goes. Some of them are really good. It kind of depends on the type of construction that we have or don't have going on. So during the times of no construction, it's usually pretty amiable, right? People love being located that close to it, but other times when we're kicking up a lot of dust and making a lot of noise, they can be not so happy about our work there. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the construction, I would imagine, is that akin to keep maintaining a bridge. Once you're done maintaining it all the way through, you got to go back and start all over again.
Right.
So once you finish building out a zoo, now you got to go back and maintain everything you built, right?
Yeah, it's kind of that way. It's like throwing another ball in the air while you're juggling, right? There's always that ball that you're going to have to readdress periodically as it makes its way around and check it and make sure it's okay before you throw it back up in the air again.
Have you made friends with any of the animals over the years? You get attached?
I don't as much as other, keepers see them day in and day out, so they're like family to them. But
Right.
there's some that I really like to go and see just because they're very interesting animals and they seem to recognize your presence, which is always a good thing with zoo animals when you can go up to them and they're like, "Oh, hey,
Yeah.
it's Jim."
They recognize you.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes.
Is there like the extra property that's there? Is there a potential for an aquarium or anything?
Anything's possible at this point. We're kind of looking at expanding into different to represent different parts of the world. So there's a wetland area in South America called the Pantanal that has a lot of different interesting animals that we'd love to be able to represent in an area, and that could provide some aquarium opportunities. As far as a freestanding, separate, ticketed aquarium, I don't know if that.
Right.
I don't think anything like that's in the plan.
I know Chattanooga is very big for their aquarium that they have there. The
Great, yeah.
freshwater and the saltwater sides. And
Yep.
It's always a fun visit whenever we go there.
Yeah, and it just started as a freshwater aquarium. As a matter of fact, it started the initial plan for Tennessee Aquarium was to just highlight
The river.
the Tennessee River, right, as it flowed from beginning to end, right, and represented all the species along the way. But I think along the way, they also heard from folks saying, "Hey, we'd like to also see, saltwater fish." So that's kind of where that expansion came from.
Saltwater fish is where you start getting into the size, the bigger fish.
Well, sometimes, I mean, we have catfish in the Tennessee River and sturgeon and things like that.
Like the size of that couch.
Yeah, they're immense, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, freshwater you tend or saltwater you tend to see some pretty amazing colors and different shapes and things like that. And the sharks, are always a crowd favorite to see something like that.
There's a book we just finished coming back from Washington called Remarkable Creatures. And it's a pretty popular book from what I come to find out. But one of the central characters is an octopus.
Oh, yeah.
And how, the octopus actually has a character voice. And and it just, talks about the intelligence of the octopus and how much it notices versus other things. And just such an intelligent animal.
Yeah. Well, they can open jars.
Yeah.
Think about that.
They can fit through, they can climb into a 2-liter bottle for crying out loud.
Absolutely. Yeah. Their body is all just kind of squishy.
Massive problem solvers.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
I think
are.
that their brain actually is their entire body.
We could probably use them on this show.
Well, not just for your episode, all the episodes for one thing in common being
There you
the
go.
host.
Let's ask the octopus.
Well, with that being said, is there a prevailing problem that you kind of deal with on an ongoing basis, or one that's at the forefront of your mind now? Or
Well, when you asked me to come out on the show, I've been thinking about this a lot. There's lots of different things that I guess we could talk about, but if I wanted to keep my job, most of them are off the table. This is one thing that, and I don't know if I'd call it a problem, but more like a challenge or an opportunity, depending on your point of view. Nashville's a fantastic town, and it's a tourism town, right? And so naturally, you'd think that a major attraction like Nashville Zoo would be benefiting from the tourism that's in town. And in some ways, we do. We do benefit from the tourism. The reason why Nashville tourism is so popular and the reason why it's so good is because it has a brand. Nashville has a brand. It's Music City, right? And when the Nashville CVC markets that brand out to the world, they market with that brand in mind. And when you market with that particular brand in mind, you are targeting there is a main group that you're targeting when you're targeting that, right? You're targeting people that love to go see live music. They love to go to great places to eat, and they love to go and drink. And that's the downtown Broadway area, the downtown area in general is really kind of geared towards that type of market, right? And they're doing a phenomenal job marketing that because they're having people come in by the millions to come in for that 4th of
Almost
July
to our
celebration.
detriment.
Well, and a lot of people complain about that. They complain about the buses and the woohoo girls and the topless tractors that drive around and all the different stuff that you have down there for the different things that are going on.
What do they have? They have
topless tractors.
For real?
Well, they have
been a
tractors.
while.
They have tractors that pull like topless, like wagons, like that you ride in. Yeah, I saw one that had like a hot tub.
I saw that too.
Yeah, the hot tub that you pull, and you'd ride around on the hot tub while you cruise up and down the strip.
Because that doesn't have disaster written all over it at all.
Well, you just think about just think about that for a minute. So the draw of this is to sit in a hot tub as you parade through the streets of Nashville with people watching you, because that's the whole point. If there was nobody downtown, if they were taking the hot tub out to, say, Thompson Station, to drive around the roads.
That would be weird.
It would be weird because you're like, we're out here in the country roads in the middle of nowhere, and why are we in this hot tub?
It just goes to show you can pretty much sell anything in downtown Nashville. Right. The next thing, let's just tie a bunch of shackles to the back of a car. Hey, get shackled up, and we're just going to parade you.
Pull you in a line.
Like a chain gang.
Right.
And just, you probably could sell that.
You might.
Yeah.
You might.
We got to walk through and we get the drink because the shackles are long enough you could drink.
That's right. It's kind of like, it's another version of, I compare it a lot to New Orleans. Right. New Orleans is kind of the same thing, and they had marketed for years and years on kind of the same philosophy, attracting the same number of the same types of people. Now, those people are from time to time looking for things to do during the day, and that's where the zoo benefits from something like that.
Yeah.
The zoo's main audience, our target audience, is families with preferably, or not preferably, but notably, families with young children, children under the age of 12. I mean, our stats will show us that over and over again, that's mostly what you're seeing. There's not a whole lot of families that are coming into town. There may be grown-ups who have children that are 12 and younger that are coming to Nashville, but there's not a big family market that's coming into Nashville. It's mostly people without children that are coming in to have a good time.
Right.
And that works against us because it's not our primary audience. So the challenge, the problem, the opportunity, however it is that you want to look at it, is what does the zoo do to attract that market?
For tourism.
For the tourist, for the Nashville tourist market, which is a very defined demographic of people. It's not everybody, it's not, you can't say that it's the entire planet because it's not. It doesn't attract young children downtown. There's not a whole lot downtown for young children to do, particularly in the evening.
Yeah. I would say even just for people moving here. I mean, how many people we have moving here a month? 4,000 or 5,000 people or something?
A lot, yeah. And half of our attendance on an annual basis is our members. Our members. Right. They're local, right. Another 20% outside of those are people that live within a 50-mile area of the zoo. So 30% of the people that are visiting are considered tourists, and that's how the CVC defines it. 50 miles from city center is considered, anybody coming in from that area or beyond is considered a tourist. And that represents about 30% of our audience. And we saw 1.3 million people in 2022, so you can do the math of how many people that draws in that are outside of the market. And
where do you need to be?
Well, if you compare it to Nashville's overall tourist destination, you want a bigger piece of that pie, right? You want a bigger piece of those people that are coming in, but how? How do you do that? How do you get in front of them to do something like that? Because we're not a honky-tonk. We don't have live music, although we've introduced music in a situation. We now have beer and margaritas that you can buy at the zoo to help with that situation.
Right.
But it's not a blowout party day
you
in
don't
and
think
day
of
out
the
of the zoo.
To go have a good time, you don't think necessarily of the zoo, to party.
Right. Yeah. If that's what you want to do when you come into Nashville, right? And during the day, again, there are lots of different things that people could do. We're not even open at night, so we're not really worried about that night stuff. But we do offer those evening activities, not necessarily to attract the tourism market to brew at the zoo and sips for species and Sunset Safari. We do that to attract the local market and to ask them to come out for different reasons, a different audience type, but still very locally focused. We're still not very tourist focused.
And it's tough to do. I mean, the last time we went to a zoo when we were visiting a city was Birmingham.
Right.
Yeah. And it was just because we needed something to do.
And you have kids with you.
Right.
Right. If you had kids with you, would you go to the zoo?
Courtney likes going to zoos. She enjoys it. I mean, if she wanted to go, I would go with her. Yeah.
Right.
It's but mainly is because we needed something to do. We were camping in Birmingham, and the zoo was a budget friendly option, so we went.
Sure. Yeah, and that's exactly how the market lines up with something like that. But if you're going to tap into all the downtown people, the people that are coming in specifically to do the honky tonks at night and go out and enjoy themselves at night, what do you offer that draws those types of people in during the day?
Yeah,
is it a mimosa lunch? Is it Pepto-Bismol mornings?
Right.
Is it what is it that you're offering to draw them in for something like that? Yoga classes in the morning? I don't know.
It's maybe even a character animal at the zoo, similar to a Shamu type of attraction where people go to SeaWorld because they want to see Shamu and stuff like that.
Yeah. The zoo has to get to a point where it's a must see regardless of who you are.
And that takes time.
It does, yeah. San Diego Zoo is exactly like that.
Bronx Zoo didn't happen overnight.
Right, yeah. They it builds up that kind of reputation. But again, people don't go to San Diego for the same reasons that they go to Nashville.
Right.
It's a different market.
I've never been with one of those cities we've always wanted to go to, but only because we've always wanted to go. I don't know what. I know she would like to see the zoo while we were out there.
Right.
I'm not exactly sure what else to do. Okay, we can go check out where Top Gun was filmed, I guess.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah. If you were to ask people on the street, what do you do in San Diego? Right. Besides go to the zoo, what do you do there?
We're going to Vegas in May. We're doing a company trip out there for a trade show. And, once you're on the Strip, you see them all.
Yeah.
Other than the shows that they have on the Strip, the Bellagio fountains, you got to go see those. See those a couple of times. They're absolutely incredible to watch. But, the pirate show at Treasure Island, I'm not even sure if that even happens anymore.
Right.
The last time I was there was in November, and that was the first time I had been there in well over 15 years.
Right.
And I felt like the last time we were there before we moved here, the Strip always felt kind of more open and airy. Right now, it feels like it's just encroaching on top of me.
Yeah.
They've built it out so much.
I've never been. I went for the first time not too long ago, actually, and I was really blown away by how many people were crammed into the streets themselves, just walking up and down the streets, just to get from one place to another. But you're right; it didn't feel very open. It felt very.
It's like on top of you.
Yeah,
right?
It was like one big giant mall that you're walking around in.
Yeah, I mean, all the casinos kind of do that. I'm pulling up. I'm not ignoring you. I'm pulling up your Instagram just to kind of take a look at that. 134,000 followers, not bad.
Yeah, that's over the years I've been able to bring in a team of people that honestly help with a lot of that. I wish I could say I'm the social media expert, but I'm not. I have a team of people that are, and I give them a lot of rope to do what they do best, and that's what they do is do that kind of stuff, and it gathers all kinds of followers for it.
How about UFC fights with kangaroos? Would that
It might. There's the delicate balance between our mission and our revenue stream.
That'll attract some tourists, I bet.
It would, yeah. Or go up against one yourself.
Well, yeah. I mean, they used to do that back in not ventriloquist, but vaudeville days.
Yeah. Get to go into an arena with a kangaroo, an adult red male kangaroo. Yeah.
And that thing would kick your butt.
Oh yeah, yeah. We have a male kangaroo, and he's a beast.
They're jacked.
Yep.
It's like, what do they say when a kangaroo is what you become after a rabbit spends 20 years in prison?
That's pretty good. That's actually pretty accurate. Yeah.
Right.
Because they even look kind of like rabbits.
They're jacked.
Yeah.
They got some musculature on them. My gosh.
Yeah, they're big, and they let you know it too. They're not, when the males get big, they're not afraid to come up and let you know this is my pathway, buddy.
That's right.
What are you doing here?
There was a place we went to, one of our first camping trips up in Kentucky down under.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and they have the
walkthrough
kangaroos and stuff like that,
and a cave right in the middle of everything.
Yeah, we had the cave. I think we did the cave tour. The kangaroos, like, I had a buddy of mine growing up that you'd come into his house, and he had this yippy dog that, you go to, look at the dog. He's like, no, don't pet him. Oh, okay. Don't even look at him. Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah.
What am I doing? Why do you even, what's going to happen? Well, he'll probably just go after you. Why is he out? It's like, what, dude? You put the dog away, for crying out loud. This is a liability you got walking around. I can't look at him. Is he that, So it's the same thing happened at Kentucky Down Under. Well, hey, just, you guys are going to, the little ones here, I'm kind of a little bit worried about. And he's like motioning to my daughter, who at the time was 5.
Right.
And, I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? He's like, well, she should be okay. Just have her not make eye contact. Like, no.
Don't make eye contact with the kangaroo.
We're not doing this then. And Courtney's like looking at me like, I'm like, no, we're not doing this. You were in agreement? She goes, yeah, totally in agreement. This is not what I thought it was.
Have you been to the safari park that's north of Jackson? There's in Tennessee here. There's a safari park.
I've heard of it. I know that there's elephants in Hohenwald.
Yeah, you can't go see those.
No.
That's a sanctuary. They won't let you in for that. But north of Jackson, there's a safari park, and you should go check it out. It's actually quite an experience. But you stay in your car,
right,
and you buy buckets of feed, and you drive through open fields that are separated by cow. You know what a cow grade is?
Yeah, they can't walk across.
Yeah, they can't walk across it, and it's there's a lot of hoof stock out there. So there's a lot of eland and zebras and, different African gazelles and things like that you can go out there and feed. And it's great. It's beautiful. And they'll walk right. And they know that you got food because that's how they get fed. So you drive up and they'll walk right up to your car and they'll eat right out of your bucket, that you're holding in front of them. And they have ostrich and emu and things like that. Well, they also have camels there. And the camels have learned how to, instead of eating out of the bucket, they grab the rim of the bucket and they yank it out of your hands. They down all the grain and then spit the bucket on the ground. And so you got to kind of drive back and go get more grain. And there's all kinds of signs as you're driving in that says, hey, we're not responsible to what might happen to your vehicle or your body, as you drive through this thing, because these are animals that there's a reason why they're not domesticated, right?
You decided to do this, right? We're off the hook.
Right.
Here's our COA,
right? Yeah,
our CYA side,
right? And it's a fascinating. It'll get your heart pumping because it's a fascinating drive. So,
but I've seen enough YouTube videos to know I'm good.
He just took my steering wheel cover.
Right.
What am I supposed to do?
And if we're going to go through it, it's going to be, for the effort of content creation with just a beater of a car.
That's right. You should. Yeah. Or a rental.
Yeah. It's like an exercise in jackass. Let those guys, strap one of them to the roof and see what happens. And,
put everybody else in the back of a pickup truck and see what happens.
So maybe the solution, as we discussed, is UFC kangaroo fights. I'm not sure how feasible that is, but
and a drive-through feeding opportunity, maybe. So you don't even have to get out of your car. You can just stay in the car.
Either with the feed, the grain bucket, yourself, or one of your extremities.
Right. So. And then maybe another one we could do is a big room that you can go into, and it has all kinds of rocks and boxes and things on the floor, and we can call it Snakes Somewhere in the Room.
Or Fear Factor.
And you get to walk through this exhibit, right? And, maybe something will come your way and maybe it won't. Maybe you live, maybe not. Sure. Yeah. We can make it that way.
There was actually something that made the internets, years ago, where it was the most terrifying thing that you could do. And if you made it through, you'd win like $100 grand.
Huh.
Yeah.
And, Fear Factor.
It was Fear Factor-esque, but it was like haunted house type stuff. The most terrifying thing, you know.
I watched Fear Factor for a while. A lot of it was just eating really gross stuff.
Yeah, or having, bugs poured on you in a glass coffin, that kind of thing.
Right, right.
I don't know.
I could do that.
There are a lot of ways to get creative.
Yeah.
And go out on a limb. Not necessarily the limb that the insurance companies like, but still.
Well, yeah, and the zoo's mission is to kind of present animals in a way that makes people inspired to want to help save them, not be afraid of them. So,
right.
None of that really has a mission meeting, it's great to work for a nonprofit organization because they keep that in mind when they're doing that. It isn't all about the money, it's about being able to forward on a message about conservation and environmental awareness and things like that as you go through this process.
Well, down here in Spring Hill, they have not gotten that message. If you look at all the building that's going on, so.
Well, when you got 100 people moving to Nashville every second now, what is it? Do you have to?
It's like similar to when we were in Vegas. There was about 6,000 people a month moving into Clark County.
Yeah.
So we're right about that, I think, now.
And you can't, it's expensive to live downtown.
It wasn't 5 years ago, but
No, but it is. Yeah, it is now. Yeah, I got a daughter that's just out of college and trying to live, with a roommate and make ends meet.
Really?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to live in Nashville without making a lot of money.
Well, if you want to find out more about the zoo and all the things that are up and coming, the SIPs and what was it called?
SIPs for Species.
SIPs for Species, and the other non-traditional events that you guys are having. Where can people find out more about it?
Oh, our website, nashvillezoo.org. That's where we have everything. And if you want to come to the zoo, I gotta point this out. We have construction. We almost always have something that we're building because, like I say, we have been building a zoo since 1996, 97. We've been building a zoo from the ground up, and it's going to continue that way, as we get bigger and bigger. So there's always going to be something built out there. We have some construction going on right now. One of the things that we're building to make sure that we can accommodate everybody is a parking garage. We've run out of parking space horizontally, so now we have to go vertically with it. So we're building a parking garage, and it's currently taking up a little over half of our parking that exists. So parking is tight, and because of that, we've gone to a reserve ticketing system, which nobody thinks about when they think about going to the zoo. You think, I'm just going to pile in the car and go to the zoo today.
Go. Right. Show up.
Right. Well, it's on days like, that we're seeing right now when it's 70 degrees outside. A lot of people have that in mind when they want to go, and we want that. I want the zoo to be top of mind when people think, let's get outside today and go do something.
What about other things like splash pads, water parks? Not grand scale water parks, but I think I've seen things like that at other zoos. On hot days, the kids can cool off, that kind of thing. Yeah,
we've been looking at that. Those zero ground fountains that come up right out of the ground, and then all the water disappears back underground. Mm-hmm. We've talked about getting some of those and putting those in. We had a couple of things like that got kids wet, that they could stand under and get wet, and then we sell dry clothes at the gift shop,
right? Of course,
to help with that process. We're looking at that. We're looking at a roller coaster, a low level roller coaster.
Yeah. Because especially if it weaves in and out of the exhibits, you get to see the animals from a different perspective.
Well, we want to keep the animals' health and safety in mind too, so we probably won't be doing it. I know we won't be doing it over or under or around animals. It's going to be kind of off in a different section, and it'll be one of those low. It won't be real tall. It'll be kind of one of those low-level coasters that spits you from 0 to 80 in 3 seconds, and you race around a track, and then it goes up a hill, and then goes backwards and races around backwards in the same way.
Is it a danger to do something like that and all of a sudden maybe risk becoming known for more of an amusement park rather than a zoo?
I think that does exist when you do too much of that, right? But at the same time, if the zoo is going to grow, and we're going to grow without the help operationally of the local government, which is how we are. We don't get money from the local government for operations.
Yeah.
We get money for capital to build things like parking garages.
Right.
But we don't get it for the overall development of our day-to-day operations. And as the park grows, staff grows, labor grows, everything else that grows with it, we have to look for, unless we're going to increase the price of admission to a point where a lot of people can't afford it, we have to look for other income streams. And the carousel, the zip line, the 4D theater, the train, the roller coaster, all those things.
Does the zip line go over the park too?
It goes up. It stays basically in the festival field area. It kind of goes up and then goes back again. It's not a bucket ride to the other side of the park, but that would be cool.
That would be kind of cool.
That's what I told my boss. He didn't want to ruin the skyline. And I said, you don't see a lot of bucket rides around anymore. Those would be actually really nice.
That's what I mean. Is it's not distracting to the animals. It's not a roller coaster, but it's a different perspective, a sky type of ride, where you can fly over the elephants or something like that.
And it's a calm. Bucket rides are just so calm. You just go up, and it's quiet up there, and
it's like the people mover at Epcot Center.
Right.
There's no friggin' point to it, but people like riding it.
Right.
It's just to take a beat and relax.
Yeah.
But there's really nothing. There's no point to that ride whatsoever.
Right. And it gets you to the other side of the park. And when we start developing out this whole Africa expansion, that's going to be a ways back into the property to get back there. So if you wanted to get back to see a different herd of rhino, or down the road, if you wanted to see some of the African forest species that we're planting down in that area from the entrance, you may have to walk a good distance to get out there. So transportation within the park is going to be something that we're looking at as well.
Have they thought about an RV park?
They have not. No,
That's
to actually do a camp out type thing.
No, I mean just if you're talking about attracting more tourist dollars, Nashville, I believe, is actually starved for more RV opportunities. You've got a nice park, and I'm a big RVer. My family is. There's a nice park that just opened a couple of years ago, Four Corners, which is right on Lake Percy Priest Lake.
Right.
And other than a couple of KOAs up by Opry and those, but that's like right by the freeways and everything. It's not relaxing whatsoever.
Right.
But, it's something that's tucked away where, part of they could buy packages. It's part of the zoo kind of thing. But I mean, RV park, dude, where they would clean up. That place would be booked out years in advance.
That's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
I'll have to run that up the flagpole.
If it happens, it happened here. I want
That's right. I'll come back.
0.0001 equity stake in that idea. I'll put it out there.
I'll send you the check. I'll Venmo the money to you.
I mean, because the thing is, you guys, and it's a low overhead type of approach build, because a lot of the your infrastructure is underground. Just building out the sewage areas, the electric, the water, and all you're doing is building pads. It's not like you're building facilities. Maybe some bathhouses, things of that nature for showers, a check-in office. That's about it.
Right.
And if you have the land, you might as well use it.
How much land do you think you'd need for something like that?
Oh, man. I guess it depends on how big and how luxurious you want to make it. You can make it very exclusive and, have 50 to 100 sites on it, and have that kind of attraction, because there's nothing really downtown for RVers to stay, other than some KOAs and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's all up at Opryland.
It is. And there's only about 3 choices up there, and I think they're fairly booked out. Now, if you put it near some of the prettier things, near a stream where they have some recreational activities, you're talking about nothing that I can think of like that exists inside of Nashville. So
interesting.
I would seriously consider that. That could be a serious revenue stream.
It's a good idea.
The place down in that we stayed a couple of years ago on the Gulf, it's the only RV park that I've seen in a long time right on the water. And you can actually, there are several spots right on the beach. Mm-hmm. They don't have sewer with them, so you have to come prepared with what they call a honey pot tank. Yep. And basically, you can just sit on the beach, watch the sunset and sunrise and all that stuff. You just get out of your camper, go right to the beach.
Nice.
The rest of the slips, like where we were, have full hookup. But there's probably, I want to say, about 250 slips in this place. And it's just a sliver of land right off the main drag, goes right down to the beach. They're booked out 2 years.
Where is that?
They just print money. It's in Miramar.
Okay.
Yeah. They print money. It's easily $1,500 for the week at the top site per site.
That's fantastic.
Yes. So they're probably getting about $135 a night, which is high.
Yeah.
For an RV park. So I would, that's a great idea, if I do say so myself.
It is a good idea. Yeah. I'm going back right now. I'm going to present it as my own.
Yeah. Courtney, we're going to be able to camp at the zoo someday.
That's right. We'll offer you a voucher.
Lifetime membership.
Right.
Well,
it won't get you into the park. You'll still have to pay.
You came up with the idea. We're not giving you the whole thing, Jim.
Right.
Okay.
That's right.
One night a year, we'll give you a slip. But that's about it.
You get the corner spot over there, closest to the CSX track.
Nice. Well, there you go. Check out NashvilleZoo.org if you want to find out more and learn more about Mr. Bartoo and all the things that are going out at the zoo. And it's a worthwhile excursion, taking the family out there. Do you have any days during the week that are kind of like sample days where they can get in a reduced price, or because of the parking situation, not really? Or
it's all, we have a varied pricing structure right now. I'd like to say it's dynamic, but it's not. But we have about 10 different pricing tiers that you can choose from. And if you go online to choose the day, you should be able to see the price that kind of tells you how much it is for whatever day you choose. And if you're going to choose a less popular day, like a Tuesday in November, you're going to get you're going to get offered a lesser fee to come into the park than, say, the day before Easter when we have our giant Easter egg hunt. That's going to be a very expensive day to come into. And as a matter of fact, that day might be sold out already because we're at a point now we have to limit how many people can park.
Yeah.
So we have to limit how many people can come in the zoo. And it's, we've put limits on the zoo before and had sold out days before, but it's been rare. And now it's much more common because of our parking situation.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Once again, check them out, NashvilleZoo.org. If you've enjoyed this episode, let us know at whatsyourproblempodcast.com. Again, the year of 10,000 average downloads. We're not there, not even a tenth of the way there, but, we're slowly but surely getting there. I believe in asking for what you want, putting it out there, and hopefully the universe responds. So help us out. whatsyourproblempodcast.com. Subscribe, follow, rate, and share. Jim, long time. It's been way too long. It's been great to talk to you once again.
Same.
And awesome to have you on. Thank you for coming out, sir.
Thanks for having me.